Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a pretty profound paradox of modern life. We're in this era where everyone seems so visible online, our lives kind of broadcast out there. But why do so many of us feel, well, completely unseen? It's like this silent epidemic almost, this struggle with loneliness, with self-doubt, maybe a sense of emptiness, all bubbling away just beneath those, curated, smiling photos we see everywhere.
It is a striking contrast, isn't it? The very platforms designed supposedly for connection sometimes seem to be doing the opposite, amplifying that isolation.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we're digging into Mamun Ahmed's essay, Masks, Mirrors, and Meaning, The High Cost of Modern Life. It's from his book, Life 2.0. And Ahmed actually quotes the philosopher Michael Foley, who calls this time, we're in the era of the absurd. Our goal today, really, is to unpack what might be hiding behind those smiles, look at the real cost to us mentally and emotionally, and maybe, just maybe, explore a different path forward towards, real connection and meaning.
And that phrase, the era of the absurd, it's such a powerful way to frame these hidden struggles we're talking about.
It really is. Foley has this observation that just hits hard. Everyone suffers in silence and laughs in public. It immediately brings up that conflict, right?
Yeah.
Modern visibility versus this deep internal isolation. We see so much, but maybe understand less about what's really going on inside people.
That's the core of the paradox, I think. The digital age promised closeness, but like you said, often feels the opposite. You can have thousands of friends online and still feel profoundly alone. It's a strange kind of collective solitude.
Yeah, and that leads us straight to social media, doesn't it? What maybe started as a place for connection has, as Ahmed points out, largely become this constant performance stage. We build these meticulously curated highlight reels, our best moments, right?
Right.
But the pain, the fear, the failures, those tend to stay hidden, very hidden.
It's a really compelling point, and it links directly to that sharp critique from Foley you mentioned. If insanity consists of repeating the same actions, expecting different results, then modern life is clinically insane. He's basically applying that to this endless online cycle of chasing perfection, chasing happiness. We keep polishing the image, hoping for real connection or satisfaction, but often it just leads to burnout and feeling even more disconnected.
And it's not just social media, is it? It seeps into other areas. Like, even routines meant to help us improve. That perfect yoga pose for the gram, the ideal morning routine, the workout schedule. They can become burdens. A missed session or just a quiet weekend where you didn't achieve anything shareable suddenly feels like a major failure.
Exactly.
That's like the whole idea of self-improvement has become another performance metric.
Precisely. The focus shifts from actual internal well-being to external validation for the effort itself. It's quite perverse, actually.
Which brings us to another really fascinating part of this. The whole struggle for validation and this illusion of authenticity. You see these really visible online figures, and you might assume they're just bursting with confidence and self-love. But the hidden truth, as Ahmed explores, is often the complete opposite. So many of these carefully crafted personas are apparently driven by deep insecurity. Worth gets measured in numbers, likes, comments, followers.
And that's where Foley's observation just cuts right through. The search for authenticity has turned into a grotesque competition where the winner is the one who acts out their spontaneity best.
Wow.
It shows how deep this drive for external validation goes. It even twists attempts to be real into just another performance layer.
Wow, yeah.
It really makes you question if that kind of performed authenticity is authentic at all.
And it hits everyone, right? Teenagers editing photos, creating whole new personas just to feel noticed, but also adults feeling this intense pressure to seem perfect, successful, not for themselves, but because they're scared of not measuring up. The harder people try to seem special, the more ordinary and, well, isolated they can end up feeling inside. It's a real paradox.
And this constant performing, it takes a serious toll, a truly damaging cost to our hearts and minds. You look at research, say, from the American Psychological Association. They find strong links between heavy social media use and rising rates of depression, anxiety, self-harm, especially among young people. It's clearly a mental health crisis unfolding right alongside our digital lives.
Yeah, sobering. And yet the underlying message in society is also still, if you're not happy, it's your fault. That narrative forces people to hide their struggles, keep up the performance, which of course just deepens the internal emptiness. You think about like The person who's inspiring posts get tons of likes, but who's actually really struggling privately.
Right. Or the successful executive everyone admires who dreads going to work each day.
How much collective pain are we silencing by framing it all as individual failure?
Yeah. And, it makes you think about Nietzsche's call to become who you are. But with all this external noise, this pressure to conform, how can anyone actually hear their own voice? Silence becomes almost terrifying because it might reveal the emptiness under the performance. So what do? We run back to the curated self.
And this pressure, this performance thing, it bleeds into everything, doesn't it? How we talk, dress, what we buy, products, experiences. They're not just sold for what they do, but as tickets to happiness or beauty or belonging. It's like we're trying to purchase happiness, or at least the appearance of it.
It's a very insidious shift. Foley puts it bluntly. Consumption ceased to be a choice and became a moral code. The market implies happiness is just one buy away: the new phone, the designer clothes, the perfect vacation photo.
But it never lasts, does it?
No.
Yeah.
That little dopamine hit from a new purchase fades fast. And what's left is this kind of persistent, low-grade dissatisfaction. So we keep scrolling, keep shopping, keep sharing, maybe not even out of real desire, but just to fill the void, distract ourselves from truths we'd rather not face.
It sounds exhausting, just this constant cycle where chasing pleasure becomes a stand-in for actual meaning.
And the end point of all this, often it's a growing numbness, a loss of meaning. It becomes easier to doubt things than to believe in them, easier to be cynical or make a joke than to genuinely care. Foley writes, and this is powerful, truth did not disappear. It was dismantled, ridiculed, shredded into fragments of opinion. For many, just pretending not to care feels safer than risking disappointment or being judged. So this constant superficiality, it breeds a real fear of depth, leads to apathy.
That's quite a thought. Foley also says modern superficiality isn't the lack of depth, it's fear of it. So we're actively avoiding anything that requires real engagement or vulnerability.
It seems that way sometimes. And, many people who come across as cynical are actually perhaps disappointed idealists. People who once really wanted to care about something meaningful, but got worn down by the noise, the tragedies, the sheer volume of it all. They just stopped believing.
Yeah, I can see that.
And this often leads to what psychologists term compassion fatigue. When you see widespread depression, loneliness, apathy, these aren't just individual issues. They might signal that the world itself is failing to meet basic human needs: connection, purpose, belonging.
That's a heavy realization. A societal failure, not just personal ones.
It is, but acknowledging it is perhaps the first step towards change.
So, okay, given all this era of the absurdity, what's the way out? What's the path forward? Mamun Ahmed's essay suggests something powerful, actually: escaping through truthfulness, which means having the courage, the willingness to be honest about pain, doubt, imperfection, not just with others, but maybe first with ourselves.
It's a quiet kind of power, isn't it? The power in just embracing the ordinary, allowing ourselves to genuinely rest without feeling guilty about it, listening for what actually matters to us, not just what's shouting the loudest online. These small, maybe simple, genuine acts, they could be the first steps back towards meaning, towards self-acceptance.
Yeah, like maybe just putting the phone down for a few minutes each day, just being present.
Exactly, and thinking about who you spend time with.
Right. Choose people who welcome the real you, quirks and all, not just the polished version. Choose things to do because they genuinely mean something to you, not just because they'll look good or get likes.
True, meaning it doesn't really live in the metrics, does it? The likes, the applause. It grows quietly, in honest friendships, in shared struggles, in searching for your own truth.
It's found in those small, maybe even unremarkable moments where we're just genuinely present.
And it connects directly to that insight from Viktor Frankl. When a person cannot find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. Meaning might be quieter, easier to miss in our noisy age, but it's always there, I think, for those who choose to look beyond that immediate fleeting allure of consumption and performance.
It feels like we don't have to just accept this age of absurdity as how things are. It's a challenge, definitely. But maybe it's also an invitation to live with more honesty, more courage, more depth.
I like that, an invitation.
Real change, maybe it starts when we stop the performance and actually start living for ourselves and for each other.
And that path forward, it probably involves asking some tough questions, making space for doubt, for pain even, and really committing to building relationships that are sincere, that nourish us, choosing that genuine connection even when it feels vulnerable over the curated perfection.
So here's maybe a final thought for you to take away from this deep dive. In a world that seems obsessed with surface-level stuff, achievements, appearances, choosing honesty, that feels like a profoundly radical act these days. True fulfillment, a life that's genuinely yours. Maybe it's not found in the grand performances. Maybe it's found in those small, ordinary moments where we dare to live truthfully and maybe help others do the same.